Hello everyone and welcome to the Year 5 and 6 extracurricular activity for this week. I am Miss Day and I'm going to talk you through the activity that follows on from Miss Burchett's activity 2 weeks ago and Mr Catchpole's activity last week. So if you haven't watched their activities already, I would suggest going back and doing those before you do this one. So Miss Burchett's and Mr Catchpole's tasks, because they're all linked to the idea of you writing and planning your own story. So this week we are going to be acting out the story that you have planned so far, doing a bit of role play. Now, at the moment, you should have your storyboard, so your plan of what your story is going to be about, and you should also have a description of your main character or characters and a setting description as well. Now, before going on to actually write the story in full sentences and paragraphs, we're going to do a bit of acting, because acting out a story and pretending to be the characters can often give you some extra ideas and details that you might want to include in your writing, and also it's a lot of fun. So before doing the acting or the role play for your story, you might need to think about these things. So you might want to think about costumes that you could wear, any props that you might need as well for certain parts of the story, and then any other actors. So are there any friends or family members that could also be a part of your role play for your story? Now, you might not want to act out the whole story, but you could choose one or two plot points or parts of the story that you would like to act out. Okay? And when you're acting out the story, I would like you to pay attention to a few different things. So when you're doing acting, the main details that you should be aware of are the action that is happening in the role play, the dialogue or the words that are spoken between the characters when you're doing the role play, and then the characters' feelings as well. So they're the three areas that we're going to focus on whilst you're doing your role play. And then hopefully you can take some of those ideas and put them into your writing when you do that next week. So when you're doing your acting out and you're doing your drama, I want you to think about, firstly, the verbs. So the actual actions that are being done. Now, as well as describing an action using a verb or just doing the action, so just, for example, just running, if you think about the adverb as well that would go with that, and just so that sort of describes how the character is running. Okay, are they running sheepishly? Are they running frantically? Are they running cautiously? And that will give the actor some more guidance as to how they have to do that action. Okay, and then when you come to write it, you can then add a fronted adverbial as well, to give it some more depth. Okay, so for example, the next moment, the spacecraft erratically darted across the sky. That's just an example of a sentence that uses a verb, an adverb, and a fronted adverbial. Okay, so you might find that when you're doing your acting, if you're directing another person as to how they need to act something out, you might need to give them some more details in terms of the adverbs so that they could act it out in the correct way. Okay. Secondly, then, is this speech, what is actually said in the role play, which I think is probably the most important element. Now, not all of the speech would go into your story, but I want you to look out for some key dialogue, some important words or phrases that are said between the characters or by the characters. And some of that dialogue you might want to include in your story. Okay, so again, thinking about direct speech punctuation, so the commas that go in between the phrases or the exclamation marks or full stops that you might need to use, as well as the inverted commas, so the inverted commas that go around the words that are actually spoken. And again, just thinking about some synonyms, some alternative words for the word said. We don't want the writing to be full of he said, she said, they said, he said. Okay, it gets very repetitive for the reader, and it can cause them to lose interest. So if we try and think of some synonyms to use so that when you're acting out your story, if a character needs to shout some dialogue, or if they need to whisper it, or if they need to command it or ask it, that is very clear from the synonyms that you have chosen. Okay, and so again, the actors know how to say the words as well as what they need to say. Again, there's an example sentence on the screen. "We have to go," explained Lynn, "before they come back." Okay, so you see I haven't used the word said there, I've used a synonym, explained. And then finally, thinking about the character's feelings. Now, during role-playing acting, the feelings and emotions of a character are often portrayed and shown through their facial expressions and their body language. So, for example, if somebody's feeling angry, they might fold their arms and scowl or frown, and it's very clear to the audience how that character is feeling through their body language and facial expressions. But when you're reading a story, we can't see the character, and it's the author's job, your job, to describe those actions and describe those facial expressions in order to let the reader know what the character is feeling. Okay, so again, when you're acting out these emotions and these feelings, think about how you would describe that in words. Okay, and thinking about the body's or the face's reaction to emotions. You might also want to use some similes or metaphors to create some figurative language for the reader to really help them imagine the emotions that the character is experiencing. Okay, so for example, she struggled to catch her breath and her heart thumped in her chest as she felt the fear rise up through her like a kettle reaching boiling point. So obviously the audience wouldn't be able to see her heart thumping, but she might be able to act out struggling to catch her breath because she's so terrified. Okay, so just thinking about how you can turn those facial expressions and actions into words for your reader. Okay, so hopefully the role play and the acting will give you some inspiration and some ideas for your written story that you'll come on to write in next week's extracurricular activity. So, ready, action. I hope you enjoy performing the role plays. If you would like to send them to either me or your class teacher, I would really love to see them. So good luck and have fun.